how to make a transparency and how to make a either gradient or solid color. So find the image of the white car on your computer. So I have it on my downloads, and open it up. So I put the file open. Okay. When it opens, you'll have a vehicle. Now, shortcut commands. I'm going to press Command 0 to make this fit the size of my screen. My interface is interrupting me for a bit, so I'm just going to remove a few items here. Just going to move it around. There we go. All right. So this is a JPEG of a vehicle that has a white background. When removing the background, one of the first things you do is to unlock the layer. And to do this, you move your mouse to the layer. You see a little lock key? You click on it. That's it. Now, if you don't do that, let me go back a step. So I'm pressing Command Z. If I use the magic wand that I showed you earlier, and I did my thing, I clicked on the white, and I try to press delete, and this is the frustration. Mind you, I have not unlocked it. A weird thing pops up. You're like, what is this? Because you didn't unlock it, it wants to do something. It doesn't want to delete it. It wants to like change the content aware or history. So please, this is not the right way of doing it. You gotta press cancel, unlock the layer, and then with your mask selected, I'm gonna press delete. You know you did it right when the background is a checkered pattern. Does that make sense? Now let's go back a step because the My Magic Wand worked. Now by default, so I'm gonna go history here and just show you the steps. Okay, I'm gonna press Command D to get rid of this mask. So what happened here, guys, is the Magic Wand tool is clicking on a pixel. And I kind of demonstrated this yesterday, but if I zoomed in here and I zoom on, zoom, you'll see that this image is comprised of small little squares of color or values, all right? So technically, when I click the Magic Wand tool, and remember my Magic Wand tool is set at 10, you guys have it defaulted at 32. So if I click this white, it's gonna look for 32 whites similar to this one. When it hits this gray doesn't follow in that gamut of color, okay? Now, the more the tolerance, the more it's gonna pick up. Now, unfortunately, this vehicle is white, so there's areas where the white blends in and kind of fits in that gamut of colors. So if I click this white, you'll see that it picked up this white as well. So what I did as a trick is I reduced the tolerance. I said to the computer, hey, I want you to pick this white, but only 10 similar whites to that. And now this white here doesn't fall in that gamut. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, if you felt that you wanted to add, like any other masking tool, you can add areas to your mask. Does that make sense? So I can go around, I'm like, yeah, that did a pretty good job. And this is, when you have a single color background, the Magic Wand tool is very good for that. But it makes mistakes and it's not perfect. As in particular, I wasn't able to get the whites in between here. But look, if I still have my 10, I can add to this mask this, start going into it. Do you see what I'm doing there? Just be careful that it hasn't gone into that area as well. So with the Magic Wand tool like selected like that, when I press delete, I delete that area, okay? Now, you decide how you want to clean up that. Now, at this point, I would recommend you save this as a PNG file, okay? A refresher, you go to File, Export As. You could do a quick export to PNG, but let's just do the traditional way and export as. And you have the options of PNG, JPEG, and GIF. So pick PNG, make sure it's transparent so it saves that transparency, okay? Obviously, I would do a better job in getting rid of the white around the shadow. And then once you're happy with that, you press export. Leave everything else as is. You could change it, but I'd rather you not. And export, okay? The next step is changing the color of the background, okay? So I'll press save. It's on my desktop. You want to replace it? Sure, I'll replace it. Okay, so the second task of the Photoshop Task 2 is adding a color. This is simple. The challenging part is the window, and I won't show you because that's the challenge. I want you now to bring the lessons together, and you have to think creatively, how can I make the color of the background through the window? If you don't know what I'm talking about, just wait a second, it'll make sense. So typically, here, I'll make a mistake, right? I'll try to fill the color without making a new layer, okay? So if I were to just grab my gradient tool, And if I do it like this, what happened? Yeah, Frank? That's right. So I'm gonna go Command Z. Make sure you add a new layer. Now, I'm gonna do the same thing. It's gonna do the same result, but now that it's on a different layer, you can click and drag the layer order and change it. Remember, this vehicle now is isolated and you add a new layer. Remember, clicking this icon is the easiest way. If you don't like clicking that icon, you could go to layer, new layer. That's 3 extra steps. I think clicking that button is easier. But anyways, it does the same result. As you can see, a new layer. Dialog box will ask me if I want a new layer. I can rename it, and it works. But I find just clicking this is a faster way. Let me delete this layer. Okay. Actually, you know what? Let me make a new layer and show you just how do you make it a solid color. Okay. So making it on the layer that you want, go to Edit, Fill, and say, all right, I want white, I want black, or I want a color. If you click color, a dialog box will pop up. You click and drag up and down, find the color, the saturation, the value of what you wanted that color to be, and voila. Now, this layer is above that layer, but watch, if I bring it below, it supersedes layer 1. Does that make sense? So if you want to play with backgrounds, you can just eyeball them off and on and see which one you want the most. Now, here's the trick. Do you guys see that this windshield doesn't look realistic? Because technically, if the background was that color, what would have happened to that? Yeah, Tafik?
It would be orange.
Yeah, it would be orangey green color, right? So I want to challenge you guys. How can you make this color of the glass look like the background was going through it? That's the challenge.
Oh.
Yeah. You have suggestions, that's great. Say them. Okay. All right, so you pick and choose. Now the gradient tool, do you guys remember? Or do I have to go through it again?
We remember.
Well, you remember. You remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Should I go through it again? You got the gradient tool? So then this video is complete, except for the fact that you have to save this part as a JPEG. Do you have to review that part? You don't save it as a JPEG? All right, then we're done.